So here we go, guys. We got audio drama creator and sports predictor and movie buff himself, Josh Hansen.
Hey, how are you? Thank you for having me. I love being here. It's always a treat.
MacLeod, where's my Oscar? I'm your host, Soli, and after Skynet has hacked our mainframe and we told Alexa and Siri we don't want anything to do with their services anymore, we've rendered them mute, we finally decided it's time to talk about the iconic Robocop versus the Terminator comic book and video game saga. But we'll talk about other things as well. There's been a recent Robocop documentary that has come out that Josh is excited to talk about, and I can't let him not mention this.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's not a topic that I come
up what's good
that
for you.
has Robocop involved, I'll find a way to talk about Robocop. I will.
RoboDoc, the creation of Robocop, which is now on Screenbox and Amazon. And what do you think it is about satire, about an original comic book concept, that ironically becomes an actual comic book later on?
I mean, RoboCop really lends itself to the comic book format, right? I mean, the first one, the Verhoeven masterpiece, it's
right.
Satirical and this and that.
I've never encountered anyone who has hated it. Even people who just seem to hate sci-fi or stuff that gets too gory. It seems like they don't have their head up their ass about this one for whatever reason, and I don't know what it is.
Nothing to hate about the original,
but it's just so funny because I'll see people say, "Oh, Total Recall, oh, that's too much," or Starship Troopers, "Oh, that's fucking stupid." But I've never seen anyone go, "Oh, I didn't get it," and I don't know if it's just the title or the trailer or what.
Well, that's the funny thing. You mentioned the title because the title stupid. It's a stupid title.
It's a stupid title, but yet all these kids went to it.
Perfect, but it's like, what else could you call that?
RoboDoc, Resurrection Bot. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just it's like, yeah, that's dumb. But then you sit there and think for a minute. It's like, oh, what else can I come up with?
I got nothing.
That's it. It's
like the heckler at the stand-up table who then realizes, yeah, I've had too much to drink. I'm the asshole. I'm going home.
Exactly.
And did you watch this at a young age, like many 80s kids, or did you watch it on TV and then get the...
So, hey, honestly, I've actually started thinking about when I had first seen this, and I don't actually know.
Oh, good.
Because growing up, I was raised in a household where, we didn't have cable for starters because we were poor.
Oh, damn.
And I wasn't allowed to see rated movies or anything like this.
I hear you. Yeah, my folks were strict, but if we could modify it on TV, that was fine to watch.
Yeah, it was probably on a Saturday afternoon on Fox, at 2:00 in the afternoon, and highly edited version. That's probably the first time I saw it.
And yet, somehow, even regardless of what version you watch of it, you get the overall gist of the good versus evil, the cool concepts. It's
such an interest. I mean, Verhoeven's movies, a lot of them are like this. Starship Troopers, Total Recall, in this, where they, I watched those other two very young and enjoyed them for a totally different reason than I do now.
It's funny how that works, yeah.
Because when you're a kid, you don't pick up on all the biting satire and all the what he's the message and the what he's saying with all the different things. It's just oh, this is cool,
right?
Shooting, there's cool action, it's fun.
For some reason, with the Alien and Terminator movies, I was able to both enjoy them for the content and for the substance. But with these were kind of more, that was wild. I can see why people like it, but it took people talking about it in open conversations. Oh, it's more than just popcorn. It's more than just...
I do remember when I realized it was something more than just that childlike, oh, cool, action, shooting, guns. I was in college, and I may have partaken in a little bit of recreational marijuana, and I remember the scene where he goes back to his house. you know?
Yes, and he
like
awakens.
getting all the flashbacks of his family, and that like broke my brain. I was like, oh my god, holy shit, this is something,
getting real.
Something else, man.
I recommend all of Verhoeven's work, honestly, dude. Like, just he's so good at just lampooning sexual politics, fascism.
Yeah. Well, no one else could have made this movie what
he's not a dumb person, and yet I will see
a genius. He's kind of an asshole, but like,
yeah, I think
geniuses are. You know,
like,
are. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. Like, and it's so funny. I saw Showgirls, censored on TV, but I just thought, hey, I know what it's trying to say. I just don't think it's very good at what it's saying about.
Yeah, that was a miss. Like, because you mentioned like sexuality, but like he does that with sexuality and violence.
Yeah.
He's over the top and gratuitous, but there's a reason for it. Like for the violence.
That's why I think he gets away with it, because
it should be horrible when someone gets shot.
Because Joe Dante and Cronenberg do a lot of the same stuff too, where they show how cartoonish this stuff is, as well as how every other person can be an asshole, and then the unintended hero.
Yeah, I mean, like the Robocop, like no one's good in that. Like even the dude who like champions the Robocop program, he's a bad dude too.
I know. I get so annoyed when I see people say that in reviews. I'm like, guys, the whole idea is that they're tools, they're pawns, they're...
Yeah, it's a whole commentary on... it's crazy that movie is somehow, like, more relevant now than... Like, he was so far fucking ahead of his time, talking about,
Omnicorp is practically... This is a Jeff Bezos meets Musk thing.
The dangers of capitalism, and, like, it's just...
Yeah. I mean, that's cyberpunk in a nutshell, where it talks about, just corporations that do all harm and promise good but don't deliver. It's just
it's just like no thought of, like, it's all a lie. It's just in the pursuit of greater profits.
Bingo. And I know, much like how Orion / MGM, which ironically is now owned by a corporation known as Amazon, when they unleash the Terminator, they don't expect it to make any money or be even a good movie, and yet despite lukewarm reception, it's overall a success and considered a classic now. But what's so funny is that when they're prepping Robocop, they're kind of expecting to replicate some of that success, but kind of again.
Did you know that the like one of the original trailers played the main Robocop theme during the trailer for Robocop, or the main Terminator theme during Robocop?
I think I did hear about that. They used some of the same marketing, and the writer Ed Numenar was...
Hear this. It was this. They played this. You hear that?
I can't hear you.
Sorry. I thought it would come through. Well, it's the main Terminator.
Yeah, but that makes sense, because I know Ed Newman
that for the fucking trailer.
Because I know Ed Newman
that they released that.
This was kind of where this is before Universal started doing that, where they borrowed the Jurassic Park or Dragonheart theme and put it in other movies that were coming out.
Yeah, but Ryan was just like, we own that shit. Let's.
But I know screenwriter Ed Numenar, he was just like, hey, whatever will get people to pay attention, and then it's not like I'm the guy lying saying come to a different movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he didn't say to use that,
No.
Because apparently James Cameron was bothered for a while that, like, it was a knockoff, and I never understood that until I heard that I saw that trailer. I saw that trailer, and I'm like, oh yeah, you had a beef because they used your fucking song in it.
He will start World War III over the smallest thing, to where it's like, man, dude, there's a reason you've gone through a dozen different marriages. You gotta let this go.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of auteurs that are pricks, like, complete asshole.
Yeah, I love him to death. Can't stand Avatar, but man,
no one has a better fucking filmography. Like, that dude hasn't missed. Like, if you look at it, it's
even a movie
like 3-2 or something, and then it's just banger, 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 banger.
You look at all his Roger Corman stuff. We saw a movie called Android, which is a better movie than it has any right to be, but it was intended as a Blade Runner knockoff. But James Cameron worked on it as, like, the art director and designer.
That's what I miss about, like, I mean, there's negatives about the whole Roger Corman era, but, like, they would, they didn't want to spend any money, and they were putting out quote unquote schlock, but they let creative people do their fucking thing, you know?
These are the guys who don't deserve the credit, but at the same time, they kind of do, because they left the guys who were great alone.
Exactly. It's like, if you stay in your budget, I don't care what you do. Get weird with it. I don't give a shit. Like, now you have, like, the Asylum movies, and it's just like, teasers that, you know.
The mockbusters.
They're just by the numbers, formulaic. Like, anyone who's directed, like high-level porn could direct these fucking movies. Like,
they really could.
There's no stamp on it. There's no creativity. It's just hit this, and get it out the door and cash it. Good. But for all his faults, he let the creatives cook.
It's wild how, I mean, I know we were talking out there about audio dramas. You know, if I ever even just want to have someone else act out their stories, I'm just gonna be like, hey, just give me the rights to just perform it on the show, and I don't make a buck from your thing, but at least, you know, everyone loves to just bring attention to each other's talents, and that leads to the next gig and the next gig and the next gig.
Of course. And that collaborative effort, you know, it's like...
And yet I see so many who will just be like, oh, you can't do that. I'm like, what do you mean? There's no conflict of interest. No one stole from each other. I think we can try this out.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting your product out there. If someone uses your whatever, like, to make a video, to make a whatever, like...
It's like we're having to repeat ourselves and remind each other what even this terminology means. I still get into it when I have to remind everyone, it's like, hey, there's a difference between piracy and, like, posting a bootleg of a movie. It's like, piracy, that's implying...
I mean, like, I don't know how much you deal with YouTube, but it's just, like, a mess. Like, because commentary law is pretty straightforward, but...
I just got into a stupid one the other day where I joked how a character is probably riding at Capitol Hill, and they said, you know, I'm making fun of a fictional crooked cop TV show. That's a great show, The Shield. And YouTube removes it after 3 years, finally saying you are furthering a dangerous conspiracy. I'm like, you clearly didn't listen.
It's like folding. It's always been difficult.
I'm making fun of an evil character. And it'd be like saying, I don't know, it's like if you are noticing what is clearly apparent, how the troopers in Starship Troopers or the Empire in Star Wars are clearly, you know, a Third Reich Nazi regime. Yeah. And if they get like just a sample of that, you're like, oh,
but just like the bots come in and it's like someone said Nazi, so we're flagging this.
You can't post it anymore.
Terrible and awful, but
they're just as bad as the people who come in during the middle of a stand-up joke. It's like, you can't say you know what's said.
Snippet from like the comic seller, and like you just have the 5-second clip of someone saying something horrible with no context. I mean,
just like the tabloid headline that clearly doesn't have anything to do with the rest of the article, but that's the damning.
Well, then YouTube's like their way of doing things is the person for copyright. It's like, let's say you're commenting on a Paramount movie. Paramount gets it and flags it, and then you dispute it. You know who it goes back to? Fucking Paramount. So what are they gonna say? They're not gonna go, oh yeah, you're right. They're gonna go, no, we said this in the first place. We're not gonna let you. Even though it's like you could lawyer up and win, but no one's gonna do that.
It's not worth it. But at the same time, I mean, it's just like we don't
fucked up system.
You going back to YouTube for a second, like there's so much stuff on there that will never get a DVD or Blu-ray release, so it only makes sense to just keep it on there.
I love when creators do stuff like that. Like this was a while ago, and it wasn't YouTube, but South Park. There was some website called like South Park Studios or something that just had free episode for free.
Is it not still on there?
It's like, I don't give a fuck. Like, cool, man. Like, we just want people to see our shit. Like, they didn't try to sue them or like. I think they actually brought them in, like, to like work with or something.
Oh, that's lovely. See, that's collaboration.
Yeah. That's what you should be doing. It's like you're furthering our product to other people. Like,
but so many people want to be the Karen. They want to be the Stan. They want to be the gatekeeper. Oh, this drug we can't legalize. Yes, you can. if
like
you want to make
MLB does that too. Like if you share an MLB clip that wasn't through one of
my word,
websites, you'll get your account frozen like immediately.
The Oscars would do that. And
NBA gets it. They're like, share it, yeah, so people will watch. What do you fucking think? Yeah, it's a whole other thing. Sorry, off track.
Yeah, no, it's true. NFL Films for the longest time was like only film on film, and then I think they finally had resistance. Oh, it's got to go digital. And it's like, well, it doesn't have the same look.
Such a short-sighted way of thinking about things.
They're really not saving all that much money. I mean, we all thought, oh,
they're hurting themselves doing that. Get your product out there, man. Like people that don't know about it, let them see it.
I'm
see something cool that happened, or something funny, or something great that someone did, and be like,
"Oh my god!"
Guys, I don't know how many times I've seen a clip of something. And I'm like, "What the fuck was that? That was awesome! I gotta go watch this movie, or watch this show, or watch whatever."
Because of just something amusing that just was on a Facebook page, it's worth it.
It's on Twitter or something. I mean,
you can't say that's copyright infringement if it made me rent your title 5 times. But yeah, I'm seeing it with. Out of all things, I'm now seeing people who make fun of stuff like cutting the cord and everything on cable, and they're like, we're not saving all that much money with all the different streaming platforms.
I mean, I'm not saving a fucking thing. I probably spend $70 on all my. I have like every stream.
Bingo. And I'm like, I was like, no shit, Sherlock. I didn't expect us to save anything. It's just, especially with.
I did for a bit, but then now everyone has a fucking streaming service, so.
And now all the shit that we signed up for is going down or going to the other side. So it's like,
yeah, and the price keeps going up, and you don't get anything more. It's all a mess.
Oh man. So, man, I never knew what came first, but apparently, yeah. So, Robocop versus the Terminator. That was the comic book miniseries first in '92, and then in '93, Super Nintendo unleashed it, and then the Sega Genesis and Game Boy released it in '94.
Sega one was pretty cool. Like the animated blood and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even the standalone ones, they were kind of like the Ninja Turtle games to me in a way, and I used to play that ladder arcade a lot. It just
it was like the first 3D. It wasn't really 3D, but just the way that they did it made it look like it was a Robocop game.
It took away memories of E.T. the video game. There was actual effort.
Have you seen that? I wish I knew what it was called. I don't know if it was a PC game or something, but it was like real. It actually kind of was 3D. It's rough and it looks like crap now, but
back then that was the thing. Yeah.
Like it was kind of like an achievement.
To your earlier point, apparently the Genesis version was awarded the bloodiest game of '93 by Electronic Gaming.
Yeah, I mean that was back when Mortal Kombat was getting like Senate hearings for and like,
everything was being pulled out.
Like every time you shot someone in that Sega RoboCop game, they just exploded into a bag.
Absolutely. Before Grand Theft Auto took off and they were just persecuting everything, it was kind of like damned if you do, damned if you don't. Just always, like, the Senate was endless in just its war on crime, acting like.
Yeah, well, they love to make a big stink about stuff that doesn't fucking matter and not actually fix things that do matter. They
don't want to fix it. They just want to
about Mortal Kombat and RoboCop video game. Because it doesn't actually matter. They don't actually have to do something that makes people's lives better.
Bingo. They just want to send one person to jail just to get a career boost. And so that's why I'm always cautious about anyone who wants to be a district attorney. Is like, are you actually going to solve a problem, open up a dialogue, or do you just
be a politician? You have to be like such a just disgusting narcissist, like sociopath. Like, there's just no way anyone you vote for is ever going to be a good person. It's always.
Oh, dude, I was disgusted at how many people. Have you followed Succession at all? Just a side tangent.
I love that show.
But it's so stupid. I encountered people who, into the 4th season, didn't realize that this Murdoch-inspired family is supposed to be bad. I'm like, it's a satire.
I mean, look who fucking made it. Like.
Yeah. And I'm like, how do you... And then I saw other people saying, oh, you gotta laugh all the time. I'm like, satire is all about absurdism and everything. You don't necessarily have to laugh in every scene. And I feel like we got dumber. Like, reality TV and everything has made people just really just shattered their mind. And then, like you say, violent entertainment.
That's a
like
show
this.
you can't watch if your phone is in your hand.
Bingo. Yeah.
You know?
But people just mad at me because, like you say, is like it shouldn't have to be just a violent movie that just gets your head out of your ass. Like, you should be able to know what you're in for instead of I don't get it.
Nuance is a thing of the past. Like, we both deal on the internet, and there's no room for nuance on the internet.
To your South Park point,
you either have to be like, I hate this or I love this. There's no room for like.
There's no in between. I like the content, but I don't like the story.
And most things I watch, I'm like, that was fine. That was all right. I don't have any real feelings. Like, it's fine.
Bingo. I mean, because
they're just fine.
We've seen plenty of ripoffs of both these characters. Some which are atrocious, and some which are that's okay for a B movie, or Sci-Fi Channel movie, Going back to South Park, I knew, and I've seen even in forums, so many people who weren't allowed to watch that show, but their parents.
I wasn't allowed when I was a kid. I remember I bought like a shirt on a school trip. My mom like freaked the fuck out on me.
Is like, how dare you? But get this, these kids were allowed to play the video games.
Well. I didn't have.
Like they think there's nothing wrong with the game.
It's funny though. I did have like Robocop, Terminator, Alien toys. Also, is like another baffling thing to me that in the '80s they used to make these hard R movies into toys for kids.
Yeah, after T2, like I would see Jason, Freddy, cop TV show characters, Dirty Harry action figures. You're like, what?
It's crazy. Like now, like you have older. Like people our age that collect stuff like that. So like I get a little more, but it was just those were marketed towards children. That
even like, by 2000, dude, I remember being at a mall and there were action figures for the RoboCop miniseries, Prime Directives. I'm like,
yeah, well, I mean, we get into RoboCop 3 and like that was they're really put. I mean,
but you're right. Even T2,
like, family friendly.
So it just makes you wonder what changed because it goes even. Back before Deadpool, people kept saying, "Oh, R-rated movies, restrict your audience." I'm like, everybody saw The Matrix. Everyone saw all these Terminators. I mean, it. It's
just studio execs are fucking dumb.
They don't overthink it.
Own in their body, and they don't understand like what people actually want.
Why do they?
They don't know what's good.
They don't know what's good. That is true. But like, why do they even think? Why do they have a test audience when they still mess with it, even if there's a positive reception? It's like you were just wasting time.
I have a thought on that. I think that you get like these high-level executives, and it's like if they don't say something, like they feel like like they have to put their 2 cents in, or why are they there? Which, yeah, why are you there? You suck. You don't know what you're talking about. But they think they have to put like you see a new studio head come in and it's like, I gotta put my stamp on this. I gotta, we're changing.
I gotta look like I'm busy.
Because this is what we're doing now.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's a bad example because James Gunn doesn't know what he's talking about, but you know what I'm saying.
Gunn is good, and he, if anything, is a good peacekeeper in between this whole thing.
What a fucking brilliant move by Warner to
just snatch him away. They're like, Disney's ungrateful.
Him like with like Zavlov, or where the fuck that weirdo's name is, who could be like the creepy studio exec that has no soul, who's a sociopath and just cancels movies and doesn't release them, and then Gunn can be there doing his creative thing like we all know and love. So
Zaslav, I guarantee you,
good cop, bad cop. It's brilliant. It's disgusting, but it's brilliant.
It really is. Like Zaslav is the desk sergeant who everyone sneaks past while signing into work. And Gunn is the police commissioner who everyone wants to go to his backyard barbecue.
Because he makes
barbecue.
And he also he interacts with people, and he seems reasonably honest for someone in that industry of like when people will say shit on Twitter or something, he's like, no, that's
so sick of those. They'll ask him
that's
every
correct.
Loaded question, and it's like, that's not what he said at all.
Yeah, I like that he'll push back and be like, actually, this is the truth. Like, fuck off.
So did you see any of the RoboCop and Terminator face off in Mortal Kombat 11? Speaking of which,
No, man. Honestly, I probably haven't played a Mortal Kombat game since like the original first couple.
I mean, Mortal Kombat
just never interested me. I was like,
Mortal Kombat seems to
like after
just,
a minute, I'm like, well, the same fucking thing over and over.
it's just goofy, but I just love how much like Halo, many people could play those games, and if someone complained, they could always turn the blood or language off.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
I mean, I don't hate that you can turn it off. Like,
I mean, whatever you got to do to make
you. But like, well, here's an example. Like, the first Jedi, like, not Jedi Fallen Order, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I'm like horribly arachnophobic.
Yeah.
And the first one had spiders in it. The second that motherfucker popped out, I couldn't play the game anymore. The second one, the newest one, has an option where you can turn an arachnophobic mode on. Where So it'd be hypocritical of me to shit on people for other, everyone has their fucking thing. I don't know.
Right.
I'm okay with the option.
Oh man, nutty. So I read the original Robocop versus the Terminator. Get this, back in the aughts, on a little site known as GeoCities. Those were the days. If you couldn't find a comic book, and if your parents were like, I don't like that stuff, it's stupid, you could always find a way around it. Just, before we had Napster and Mega Upload and
yeah.
And it's like someone was always courteous enough to have a fan site and upload a PDF, scan it into the dial-up internet.
Yeah. I mean, those are the real heroes, right? Like,
the people who just spread the joy.
Imagine how long it would take to scan and upload, like,
sucked.
Anything.
Totally
like,
sucked.
Any video, I mean, fucking forget it.
And this got us into
computer.
And it's so funny, we're all speaking the same language. Parents were used to bootleg records, and my sister collected anime that was clearly, when she learned after the fact, she's like, yeah, this is by probably an American importing Japanese bootleg tapes,
but version of what, yeah.
And my brother would get some baseball cards and record games that he would never watch again. But it's just so funny how Dark Horse just figured it out early on. Adapt various, have unusual original content, and then have all these popular movie characters do awesome crossovers. It's such a shame they can never do it with Star Wars.
I wonder what came first. Was it because Predator 2 was like,
yeah, 1990. So
that crossover to like the masses,
Yeah, no, you're right.
Just a fucking Easter egg, like, oh, this is like a cool, funny little nothing.
They played around with it like in '88, and they made it official in '99 with '90 with Predator 2, and then it's like that was like the that they loved the money, they loved kind of the fan mail they were getting, so that was and fan mail is a whole different Easter egg versus nowadays, where someone, you see 20 comments on your Instagram post and you get an answer.
Writing a fucking letter and getting a stamp,
a postage stamp, expedited mail.
That is insane. You're a fucking crazy person if you do that.
Oh man. And years before we had, we could decide if we even want to go in person to the post office and send a stamp.
Yeah, like the amount of time and effort it would have taken to send a letter back then is fucking wild.
Oh man, and it means the world at the same time when you see someone who still does that in today's age. It's like, see, you actually cared versus you sent me 2-paragraph text I'm never going to read.
Yeah, also, like, people don't know what they want.
You have mentioned that before, and I totally am with you, dude.
Like, that's how I was in Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness. I wanted Krasinski as Reed Richards, and I got it, and I'm like, I don't like this. I don't know why, I just didn't like it. It just, like, I got exactly what I wanted, and I wasn't happy. I don't know what the fuck I want.
I think I don't. Some people say we're spoiled. I'll half agree. I don't think we are spoiled, but I don't think that's the problem. I think we're just there's so many different ways we can do it, and because we see how much stuff is like crowdfunded, half the time we just want to kind of hack the creators' brains and say, "Let me in there. I'll do a director's cut for you."
I think we all like. If you ever tell anyone you do a podcast or you write or you're a writer or something, just like a normal everyday person, they're always like, oh yeah, I want to do that. I was like, everyone wants to think they're creative and funny and artistic.
They find out the hard way.
They're just not. Like, they've never done anything. They like to say, oh yeah, I wish I would have been a writer if blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, but have you ever written anything? Well, it's like, no. Oh, I'd love to do a podcast. Oh, have you ever tried that? It's like, well, no. Shut the fuck up. Like, a lot of people, everyone just wants to, it's like a cool thing to say or think about yourself. It's kind of like how everyone thinks they're funny and most people aren't fucking funny.
That's the other thing too, and that was the first thing I even learned in freaking improv. Don't try to be funny, just react, listen.
Listening and keeping it going until you find
you will get a genuine laugh, and half the time you're not even trying, even though you're legit. You're being observational and everything, but it's just like
that's where a lot of the comedy comes from.
Yes. Oh man.
Not Seinfeld, like up on the stage, like, well, what's the deal? Like that's not how that works. You know?
I mean, Jerry was another perfect example. He and Joel Hodgson, Joel from Mystery Science Theater, are both friends, but they all had the same kind of way in that they wanted to be the hosts. They didn't want to actually act, so they just carry the ship. And it was an ensemble, so it worked. But then everyone's like, "We want you in this and that," and we're like, "Nah, I'm not an actor. I don't want to do that."
I do respect Seinfeld for that, of being like, "Yeah, I'm not good at this. I don't.
I'm staying in my zone, and that's all I need."
I mean, granted, he had like $1 billion in the bank, but like still,
right? But
I get it that he's like.
He would have filed for Chapter 11 before he decided, no, I'm gonna have to act in a bad movie just to make ends meet.
Yeah, I mean, I respect someone who like knows who they are and like what they're about, and it's like, I can't do that. Like that's like good on anyone who can, but that's not what I do. I can't do that.
Bingo. Oh man.
Well, while we were talking, I went and grabbed. Speaking of comic books, I don't know if you see this.
Woo!
My most prized possessions.
Trade paperback, baby.
Yeah, and it's like wrote like the second one and the third one or something, but they were just like
they played around with his vision.
They're like, it's unfilmable, so he put it in a comic.
But
book.
I'm at say what you will about him now. Where he seems to be.
I know. Yep. Yeah.
Without spoiling everybody, he somehow went from being a cool kind of, I want to design all these Batman type characters against the world, and now he's kind of thinking like Omnicorp, where he's kind of a mindless minion, and you're like, okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, whatever, but like, he's made some amazing stuff. This is awesome.
And we'll always like his early stuff. I did read the comic book versions of 300, and I like that a lot, even better than the movie.
Yeah, talented dude. It's just...
I think he was the right mind to even adapt this Versus comic, just because, again, he loved the Robocop character so much. The Terminator is technically the antagonist at the end of the day.
Which Versus ones have you read? Because the sticks out on me is Still Human. Oh my god!
Well, I promise you, we'll get to that awful one.
It's the worst. It's the most. I love it, and it's one of the worst pieces of shit I've ever.
I could not agree with you more.
So fucking terrible, but I love it.
And in a way, kind of like Alien versus Predator versus Terminator, which is a cool idea, but kind of comes up short because it acknowledges Alien 4 and everything. I'm just like, this could only work as a comic, and that's kind of how I was with Still Human.
Well, I mean, I was so stoked for Alien vs. Predator, like the movie. I remember going to see it in college with a guy across the hall from me in the dorms, and like we were both so stoked about it because we loved Predator, we loved Aliens,
and you loved the comics.
And we watched this, and we're like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
It went PG-13. They pussyfooted around with it, and it was just
Well, and
nothing.
you look at the Blu-rays.
It wasn't even that it was bad. It was just nothing.
Yeah, that's just it. Even with the R-rated cuts, you're just kind of like, these are Godzilla movies. These aren't AVP movies.
Requiem was closer to what I wanted, but you couldn't actually see anything because...
Yeah.
If people complain about that Game of Thrones episode, it's like, watch Requiem. Then you know what the fuck's going on.
They were so heavy-handed with either one, and it's just like, they just rushed them. So, on the brilliant side, though...
Do you know, actually, the original AVP was the reason why Cameron didn't make another Alien? Like, he was in talks and, like, I don't know if he's in, like, pre-production, or he was, like, had an idea that he wanted to do a sequel, like, to his movie, but then AVP they were like, we want to do this, and he was like, fuck that, I'm out.
That makes sense, because he is kind of like...
more upset by that Nothing movie. Because we could have... Aliens is a top 5 movie for me.
I doubt...
Second favorite movie of all time, honestly.
I'll bet you money, kind of like Terminator 3, he probably never saw it because he was too close to it. But at the same time, he is like Michael Mann, where he has to have come up with the concept or feel like he can be the first one to leave his mark.
Well, it was from what I heard and read, like, it was like, he thought that would, like, dilute the brand, like, kind of make it...
He is, like, very much like that. He feels...
To kind of respect, like, I get it. That was silly.
I mean, I would definitely as soon put him in charge of an entire franchise, let alone a...
Oh, yeah. If any idea I have ever or will ever have, James Cameron wants to take it, do whatever the fuck he wants with it, I won't say a goddamn word. I'll be like,
even a studio,
go make $1 billion, because that's what you do.
If he wants to make his own studio, I know that, like you say, he won't oversaturate it. He will know 1, and then 2, and that's it. And then director's cuts. And then that's it.
Well, that's the thing. He was up to, like, making another one. Like, he had ideas. Like, Aliens is so fucking weird like that, because, like, you have the Neil Blanca, like, all that.
That would have been great, but Fox, same deal. Like, Ridley Scott decided to be all wimpy and go.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of like how Fox was with Deadpool, where we've been made to look like fools. And
the only reason that movie got made is because they just leaked. Like,
they leaked it, and yet even though they leaked it here,
now everyone loves it. It's like nothing you can do about it.
It's so much better than all the other crap we've gotten lately. I mean, they're coming out with another Alien movie, and that's like in between the first two.
That actually looks kind of interesting. Romulus?
I think my problem is I just hate that director so much. Like,
really? You didn't like Evil Dead or whatever it was that he did?
Oh, well, the Don't Breathe movies.
Or maybe you have personal reasons.
Well, did you see Don't Breathe?
No.
Okay,
I'm
so that
horror guy.
Well, so the Evil Dead remake was whatever, but I was just like, when I saw Don't Breathe, I'm like, this is such a generic serial killer takes over a house movie, and everyone was all hyped about it, and I'm just like, I just don't like how he shoots things either.
That's fair. Like, I only know that, like, people said Evil Dead was solid, and, like, I haven't seen it. Like, I'm just going by.
I think
I've never actually seen anything he's made, so but the trailer looked pretty solid.
I will give it its day in court, but it's too early to tell. But to your earlier point, I mean, if anything, James predicted where this could go, and so at the same time, I do kind of wish he could have just done one more installment. That would have been good enough.
Yeah, I mean, I just want Michael Biehn back.
We all do. We all want
I want more Hicks.
Corporal Hicks.
Michael Biehn, I mean, I said it a million times, but he's the greatest action movie star of all time. He just is. I don't care what anyone says. He is. He's more than Arnold, more than Stallone, whatever. He's the greatest action movie star of all time.
Yeah. In fact...
Terminator, Aliens, Tombstone, The Abyss, fucking The Rock. Like, get the fuck out.
Even the movies that direct-to-video stuff he's done is fun. You know?
I mean, he's barely in The Rock, but he's my favorite scene fucking movie.
That's basically
get that order. Just fucking scream it off.
Commander Anderson is basically Corporal Hicks in real life. Yeah, it's just
unreal. Like, it's so good, and I want more.
You will stand down.
I love their little dynamic. Like it wasn't like there's a lot of sexual tension, but they never, like they both respected the shit out of each other, and they're both bad motherfuckers. I want to see them just kick some alien ass together.
I miss movies like that too. And now when they do it nowadays, they do it so blatantly obvious to where it's like, okay, we're selling the movie just because people want to see two famous people who are naked.
Yeah, but their sexual chemistry was just like, it felt like it just was organic. Like,
yeah.
Oh, like you see that with chemistry of any type, like on screen.
James is an editor first. But before a filmmaker.
I mean, he should have been such a bigger star. I mean, first of all, he's been in multiple James Cameron movies, so like
William Friedkin movies,
good at what he fucking does,
Totally. And
I mean, he had a lot of like alcohol and like drug and stuff. Like he had a while ago, and like
I did hear the inside
he's had a hard time. He's better now.
I mean, after even just seeing his brief guest appearances on other TV shows, I saw him on a Law and Order Organized Crime episode as a biker, and
showed up on The Mandalorian in one season.
I freaked the fuck out. I was like,
episode of Ahsoka showed up, which was like my favorite thing ever. Just my favorite Star Wars character.
It was a great episode, a great character.
So yeah, I wish he would have had more to do. I wish he would have had more like Bill Burr, like so he could come back. But I love that little character of him just being like the scumbag mercenary.
That's just it. Like, he humanizes all these characters, even when
that's
awful.
It's weird. Even when he's a piece of shit, like in Tombstone.
Yeah.
Something human about him and the way he acts, like that you just feel you can relate to, even when he's playing a horrible person like that.
Bingo. And he just has a way of just yelling where you could have sworn you're seeing an actual person lose their shit instead of, it's an overactor.
Just honest. Like his acting is just honest.
He goes somewhere. I don't
know.
Totally. He's in the drug dealer movie Puncture with Chris Evans. He's in the apocalyptic film The Divide. And then he's in all kinds of other shit that no one's seen, but you're like, I want to see it, even if it's a waste of time, because he's going to own it. He's going to make it worth it.
Best. I love him. My favorite.
He's in a Far Cry video game. Totally. To the earlier points, though, I mean, so isn't it wild how the Robocop versus the Terminator might be a rare point? Because, like, you see Star Wars comic books that are also books, but they're essentially the same thing. You're just examining, like, artwork. Here, this is interesting because, it's both a comic book and a video game, but neither has the same ending. Like, Robocop destroys Skynet in the comic, but in the video game, in a more interactive experience, you stay in the future to destroy Skynet that way.
Yeah, they're both their own content.
It feels legit versus last minute change, or
that was back when no one gave a fuck or even understood.
No one paid attention,
kind of thing.
Yeah, have you ever heard about how there was that one Alien versus Predator video game, and there was a Arnold type Dutch cyborg character?
No,
and
I know
that was where
the Predator
that started up the whole.
Instead of Dutch Schaefer, it was just like John Schaefer, who was his brother, but
that's in the books, and apparently Danny Glover's character is also in the books as like a retired policeman, but apparently James Cameron.
I recently went on that Predator Minute.
Yes, I'm so glad you got to work with them.
Oh my god, that was
always a party, man.
Putting me, everyone should go look them up. They're
it's fantastic. Like you're doing an interactive film studies class because you're analyzing a scene.
So much freaking fun with
it. They are legit. They should do their own open mic night. They are amazing, but like, it's so funny what inferences and other skits you can make out of just watching a random scene of a movie.
Yeah, like I did multiple minutes them, and like I had to we had to stop because it's like we've already gone 20.
We're on 200 minutes now.
I have so many thoughts on that fucking movie. I love Danny Glover. He's just like a psychopath throughout the entire thing.
He's so intense.
Yeah, he's just like, I don't know. It's
so weird.
Scarface amount of blow. Everyone is just so sweaty and gross.
Everybody.
I fucking love that movie. It's not.
I don't know what it is about. What is it about Joel Silver movies that are so intense? While we watch these other movies, and they're just insufferable because they're not in on their cliches or anything. It's somehow his energy is just off the wall. Where you're like, I'm here.
He's almost in a different movie.
It really is. It's a Lethal Weapon movie.
Going so goddamn nuts all the time. He's just going full send for every single.
I'm gonna get that man.
He's just a lunatic.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
We somehow we don't even ask the whole time how much sleep he's had. We kind of don't care. We're just like, sure, cool.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing a cop on the edge, and he's on the fucking edge. Yeah,
absolutely. Did you ever hear how James Cameron originally had Cyberdyne be the Weyland Yutuni Corporation in Aliens, and he had to delete it? He couldn't legally use that.
Oh yeah, what was it? He tried to put Cyberdyne in something else. He called it Hyperdyne or
Hyperdyne. That sounds like a bad exercise.
Another movie. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. Maybe I'll think of it. But yeah, I like that kind of stuff. You have Blade Runner, and there's nods to other kind of stuff, and fucking Soldier with Kurt Russell or whatever.
Yeah.
Star Trek and
Marvin the Martian. He's all kinds of goofy ones, and the only thing legit is the Blade Runner connection, and the other stuff is just Easter eggs. That makes it even more.
Well, that was back when you just did we talked about Predator 2, and they just put the alien skull in there, and that was just back when they just did that shit just for fun, they're just that, and they're like, we're nerds and we like this shit, so
I have had to
mean anything. Who cares?
I've had to be patient with so many movie sites who took half the stuff that's a parody to mean that it's in the same universe. I'm like, oh, you people have too much time.
Fucking E.T. shows up in one
Star
of the
Wars 1, yeah.
Yeah, it's just fucking thing. And in the Indiana Jones movies, it's Club Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Cave carvings of C-3PO and R2-D2.
That's an Easter egg. That's not the same universe, but people love to do that, and I'm just like, good God, you have too much free time, guys. So do you think RoboCop versus Terminator would have ever actually worked as a movie? Because in the comic, it's so theatrical. I mean, you have a freedom fighter who activates him named Flo.
I mean, it's tough. Just look at Terminator as a franchise. It's not a good franchise. The first two are obviously
right,
but there hasn't been anything good after that. I actually like Dark Fate, but
me too.
But I mean, the Predator is the most successful franchise out of that type of movie. It's fucking crazy.
We'll return after these messages.
If you like small town mystery, crazy news, and wild history, then the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast is for you. Each week, Josh Mills and Wayne McCarty bring you the absolute best Florida has to offer. So if you're looking for a show that's safe for the family, but funny enough to help you escape everyday life, then listen to the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast. That's Florida Men, plural, on Florida Man podcast.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, give it up, Jimmy, you gotta sink this putt to win. On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast wrecks and foodie debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in, it's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
The Jacked Up Review Show podcast is honored to be part of the Blind Knowledge Podcast Network. Join anytime, talk the talk, and enjoy yourselves. There's something enlightening for everyone with this crowd of cool cats. Check them out. Because it embraces its B movie.
There's only one bad movie out of that. All of them, the rest of them are pretty fucking good.
Yeah, it pretty much knew what it wanted to be.
Somehow it was the Shane Black one. That's the only bad one.
Yeah, I had fun with it, but I know what you mean. I'm waiting for a director's cut of that because they chopped so much stuff out.
That movie reeked of like studio interference and him just going,
yeah,
fuck it, I don't care, do whatever you want. Because that was a bad movie, and he makes good movies.
Yeah. And I blame just all the on-set disputes and everything that they even had.
There's some stuff going on behind the scenes too.
And it's like, my God.
Yeah.
So everyone wanted to just kind of not work with each other on that as soon as they signed up. And kudos to that.
I got Shane Black. I'm going to let Shane Black be Shane Black.
Yeah. Edward James Olmos was in that, believe it or not. And he got his whole character story.
Yeah, I'm not going to like tell him what to do. I mean, they did the same thing for Iron Man 3.
Yes.
That movie kind of sucks too. And you can tell like that wasn't.
He's getting
studio. I'm giving him more credit, but than he should have.
I know.
I feel like he just like gets enough pushback, and he's just like, "Fuck it, fine, do whatever."
Do whatever. Here's the thing: you can do everything you want, but unfortunately, when you become part of a franchise, the producer of that thing is going to give their notes.
Yeah, there's so many cooks in the kitchen.
We all need what Josh has there in the corner. No one can see it. Is Grogu, just looking out for the little guy.
Exactly. I mean, man, if I was ever in charge of any studio or film or anything, I'm like, if I get a creative motherfucker to make my whatever, just kind of let him do it. And like, I might have notes or like be like, hey, what about this? What about that? But if they're like, no, be like, cool, man.
Well, and
you do your fucking thing.
If anything, doing our own thing.
Because they're not infallible. Like maybe you could have a good idea here or there, but if they're like, no, this is how it should be, that's why I hired you. Like, what are we doing?
I feel like not enough people ask the right questions, or they just say yes blindly before realizing, hey, you got to compromise here. And with these video games that are based on a movie, and with this comic, it's based on a beloved movie, it's like they kind of do the simple free act structure. Hero tries something, learns his purpose.
Yeah, I mean, you're also dealing with investors. You're not dealing with money people, because in a comic, you can do whatever the fuck you want.
You don't have to. Imagine if every boardroom was like the Robocop boardroom. Things might get done more easier. I don't like it.
It's my favorite thing.
Yeah. And I love how in this comic, like, Robocop fails twice. Gets captured and everything, and then he finally blows up Skynet from the inside. He hacks the database and becomes like a mecha cop, and it's awesome. And I loved how you didn't have Arnold's characters. Now, ironically, Sergeant Reed, from RoboCop movies, isn't here, but Nico, the little girl from Part 3, was apparently name dropped. According to TV tropes. I missed that.
I've never actually sat down and watched all of Part 3 because
I can't blame you. The ninja stuff.
I don't need that in my head. Like, I know it's not good, and I love the first one. So I'm a defender of the second one too.
I loved the Part 2 growing up,
but I actually I really like the second one still.
Well, I think the thing is, they're comic book movies, but they kind of got like the budget and interference of like a Ninja Turtles movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to just do this. I mean, the typical sequel is do the same thing but more.
Yeah,
and that's what it did. It didn't tread a whole lot of new ground, but
yeah, it's kind of a shame that the only satire in that one is pretty much the commercials.
Yeah, and that's the thing with like, there's certain people that like Verhoeven is so good at that, because it's not the news clips, the news breaks are bad in the second one. They're just not the same.
Yeah,
and that's just all Verhoeven. Like,
people aren't studying this guy.
It just you can't recreate it. They tried and they did their best. Eric Kirshner's a good director. I mean, he did fucking Empire Strikes Back. He's a good director.
Uh-huh.
But Yeah, he can't do that because he's not Paul Verhoeven.
Oh man, and I think we're to the point where it's just like people don't know what makes things work. They just go, "Oh, it's awesome. Oh, it sucks." It's like,
Well, yeah, as we were talking about before, it's just like, oh, this is all either great or bad. It's like, well, no,
it can
like
be in
RoboCop
between.
2 is there's some pretty good stuff in it. There's some stuff that doesn't work, but there's some solid stuff in there.
Right. And who would have guessed that in this comic, Robocop destroys himself? That's a total irony. He says, I'm following the directive, protect the innocent. If I continue to survive, I will inevitably become a killing machine. So I got to kill myself because I'm a threat and I'm able to override my programming.
I feel like that tracks with his character in the original, right?
Yeah. He's a selfless
I
dude,
mean,
wanted to do
he's
the right
also
thing.
a prisoner in this monstrosity. You know,
Bingo.
he's not allowed to die, and he's not. He's sort of. It's like his soul is trapped inside the
Yes.
often.
Totally. Absolutely. And there's some irony, there's some satire in this that works for Frank Miller's style. Like one of the Terminators kills a blind man for his sunglasses. That was amusing because that kind of goes with the gory over the top nature.
Yeah, he can be a little heavy handed sometimes, but
Oh, and basically this
doesn't
took
have that surgical ability of Vero. No one does though. Like
well
Verhoeven's
that and
no one
and
just has that.
yeah, and Robo got to use all his gadgets that were probably the best part about either sequel. You know, he gets to use his jetpack and super
Yeah,
machine.
jetpack works in a comic, but man, that does not fucking work
It's
on.
so funny how it doesn't work in a movie, and
So
yet in a
bad.
comic,
Well,
it,
I mean, the part of the appeal of those first and second movies is they're grounded in a reality.
yes, and we're
You know,
we're
it's not
distracted.
our reality, but it's. I mean, that's good science fiction. Is it's close enough, or you can see how we got there.
Bingo.
When you're
And
putting a fucking jetpack on, you're just a cartoon character at that
well,
point.
and with a movie, I hate to say that we nitpick, but we have to because we're observing how it's shot, how it's edited, the acting and CGI. And if one of those, one or all those things isn't working, we reject that because, like you say, it's not a reality anymore. It's a bad
Yeah,
movie.
yeah. I mean, your brain just do that for you. Like,
Oh man,
what is it? Red Letter Meter says like you didn't notice, but your brain did. You know,
right? It was good at 2 a.m. Let's try at 8 o'clock tomorrow when
yeah,
you invite the whole
I don't
family
know.
over.
Like I know. Oof.
And we've all been in those situations. It sucks when you thought the best thing, and I saw 5 years ago in college, it was great, and then you bring it home for a family movie night, and everyone's like, I get to pick the next one. That was garbage.
Yeah, yeah. I worry about movies I saw when I was younger. Sometimes,
Oh, I
like
pretty
a
much
perfect
read.
example of that is if you've ever watched Boondock Saints recently. That is the biggest
Yes.
fucking shit that you thought in like high school and college was so cool. It is terrible, awful,
I like it in a
awful,
way, but
like laughably bad. It is a bad movie.
I guess I guess my issue is I don't know why Tarantino gets a pass and yet all these other knockoffs get rejected. I just feel like they're doing the same thing, but
Well,
it's a
that's my thing with like what Verhoeven can do with satire, and even another competent director can't do it. Tarantino does his thing that looks like you should be able to replicate it, and other people try to do it, and they just can't because they're not him.
fair enough. I
Yeah.
feel also that there's a reason most of these movies exist in their certain instead of complaining about political correctness and everything, these movies are an 80s movie or a 90s TV show for a reason. They worked well when they were fresh and we were
Yeah, a
in
lot of
this medium.
80s and the 80s
Because
and
we
90s
see all
stuff.
these other
Like
movies that we look back
they're
at
a little
now.
tough sometimes. But
Oh, totally.
I will say Verhoeven, like, is
He's
as
ageless.
controversial as he was, you don't have a lot of times where you're watching his movies and you're "Ugh," like, oh, that doesn't fly these days, you know. Like
Right.
they made this
He
joke.
knew what he was making.
They're being racist or bigoted. Like, there's not really any of that.
And plus, when
It was a staple of like 80s and 90s action movies.
Bingo, because he knows how to make the over-the-topness work and get the actors to trust him. Versus, you look at a Lethal Weapon or Die Hard knockoff, and you're like, oh, there's too much gore and homophobic jokes. I can't watch this anymore.
It's people thinking like they understand why something's successful and completely misinterpret the reason why it worked. You see that all the time.
I feel like this is a good transition to Kill Human, the 2011 IDW comic. Because like Dark Horse, they are ballsy. They love doing crazy crossovers and everything. But much like how this works best as a comic, this also works as a comic. But it would be terrible as a movie.
It's terrible as a comic.
It's a bad comic.
Fucking honest.
But I'm still beside myself. I enjoyed the ride, but that ending is garbage. But yet the artwork is so good. God.
It starts off fairly strong. Like with the lady like in the Skynet museum, even though that doesn't really make any sense. Like, why would they have a fucking museum? Their computer program.
I took it.
Why would they have like a Smithsonian type museum? I don't know. Whatever, fine.
I kind of like the IDW Terminator versus Transformers. They kind of showed a lot of Cyberdyne stuff being taken over, but you're right. Like that one was very campy, and this one
none of it makes any sense. Like none of it.
This one just
I said it before, but it's like if if Robocop wrote fan fiction for Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Inserted himself in it. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's just it.
Goes back in time and kills the original Terminator, and nothing turns out better. Arguably way worse.
I just want to know why
John Connor dies. Like he did a worse job.
He fucked it all up. So what I got
worse job.
But I want to know who thought that would be entertaining. Cause like that's a lot of trouble with zero payoff.
I think that's why I like it so much, because it's
so bad it's good.
It's so confusing, and I'm so interested by it because it doesn't make any sense, and I don't know why it exists or how it exists. Like I love things that shouldn't exist. Yeah. Like I always go back to like The Lobster. Like that movie should not fucking exist.
Oh God.
I love it. Like, I mean, the first two acts are fantastic. The third stinks.
Don't get me started on.
But I don't care. I'm so happy that something like that exists because it doesn't make any sense. It's absurd. It's crazy.
It's like an acid dream.
Swing, you know.
Well, and then
I know this is a big swing. It's just absurd. It's an oddity. I'm fascinated by it.
And some of the artwork was really confusing, to where then you had to reread it twice. You're like, wait, so he was forced to kill the resistance fighter at the start, and then he kills bad.
He's just Robocop, and then all of a sudden he gets taken over by Skynet and shoots the last human being alive, and then he's fine after that.
And it attempts realism at one point. They're like, hey, why? He even asked the computer, why didn't you stop me? They're like, your computer operating system looked normal. I'm like, can you not read his mind? I thought you could control it at any time.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was taken over by Skynet, so I get like why.
And if he's human,
but then he's just fine after that. Like,
and if he's human,
and also, how's he going back in time? He's metal.
Yeah, good question. And if
that is at the bottom of problems of this, like way at the bottom, and that should tell you.
Yeah,
they're not even adhering to the rules of the universe that they've put in place. It's just fucking like buckshot scatter. Like I don't care. Let's just do this. Who gives a fuck?
I kind of don't even want to spoil it because I want everyone else to go on the trouble to watch it or read it like you and I did. But at the same time, like,
I'm fine with spoiling it. Like, don't waste your fucking time. It's or two. Like, honestly, I heard about it before I read it, And that made it.
Jeez.
I knew everything that happened. That made me want to read it more because I was like, no fucking way.
When
Like,
you were telling me about it,
like you can't. This can't actually be what happens. It's like, oh fuck it,
this can't be real. So I was mistaken. It's Dynamite Comics, not IDW, but similar brand and Golden Age. Superheroes, everything from Buck Rogers to Flash Gordon. But yeah, like this one. When you told me about how Dick Jones is actually a good guy for once in this,
he like goes back and gets like a bunch of Ed 2. He gives them like the blueprints for all the Ed 209s, and he has like 1,000.
the drawing of the T1000 was good, but I just got annoyed by the gore after a while in this because I was just like, what is this? A crappy slasher movie? God,
This is a misunderstanding of what made RoboCop good.
Oh yeah.
It's like, oh, there's this over the top violence. Like that's what it. Yeah, but no, like you missed the fucking point.
Yeah. And
it's just such a misunderstanding of what made either of these characters or franchises popular.
Absolutely. And
that's why I find it so fascinating because it's just like it's just such a miss on what made both of those good, and they're going in such the wrong direction. And it's fucking fantastic.
I guess so, man. Like if they know Murphy is human to begin with, they would have tried to kill him. No exceptions. The robot armor and everything.
Right. I mean, they possessed him for a minute. Like, how do you stop doing that?
How do you even possess him to begin with when he's part human?
I mean, that part I can accept because he's a cyborg. He's got mechanical robot stuff. Like, so okay, yeah, they could take him over, but then he's just not. Okay.
Jeez.
So fucking stupid.
I'm sorry. If the T1000 is trying to get him on water, it wouldn't follow it. You can only take over so many helicopters and everything, and it's just God.
Yeah, they're on like this OCP aircraft carrier, which also is kind of like it has a dusting of interesting things throughout. I'm like, oh, OCP just has like their own like navy. Like that's kind of interesting.
But it doesn't last long.
And it isn't like at all.
I
mean, he fucking fills that room with acid and just and they made Dick Jones like a good guy, and he just sacrifices his ass too.
Yeah,
and John Connor just to kill the T1000, which would have done regardless.
And they write Sarah Connor so shitty in this 2011 follow-up. She is just whining the whole time.
Why you liked any single character in either of those movies?
And he deactivates Arnold T800, but then somehow, we got another way we can bring him back online. And it's like, well, you shouldn't have taken him out to begin with. They've been complaining to you. He's on our side.
Helping them. You got in the way. Like, you're actually a problem being here. You're making things work.
Jesus Christ.
So much.
This is a shitstorm, but like you say, it's garbage, but you can't take your eyes off it, but yet you kind of want to watch it, but yet, oh man.
I mean, don't pay for this, but
I didn't.
I'm fine.
I read online. And I know everyone else is going to be like,
it's worth reading. It's terrible. Like,
oh, it's terrible. Yeah,
but it's a fucking oddity. Don't give the people who made this any money. Don't like steal it.
Don't tell them they did a good job.
Don't give them any money. Don't reward anyone for making this. But it's something. If you love either of those franchises, it's something fucking else.
It is like a perfect hate watch. Like it's like one of those movies.
It's a hate read. Yeah,
it's like if you watch your favorite episode of Mystery Science Theater, but then dare yourself to watch the bad movie by itself, uncut on Rift, and then you're realizing, oh, they made this so much easier to bear.
Yeah, it's like watching Mitchell on its own.
Oh, there you go. Yep. I hear that Sector War and Enemy of My Enemy are also pretty infamous Terminator comic books. I haven't read those yet. I'll get to them eventually. I promise we'll do as many comic books based on movies as we can. And
I haven't read those either. This isn't. I mean, I feel like this fits into the RoboCop Terminator.
Go for it.
Talk about aliens. Have you read the first Batman versus Predator?
I'm getting to it this month. I'm trying to read all those crazy crossovers. Skynet versus Superman.
The first one is really fucking fun and good.
I bet, man. There's Wolverine versus Predator now, and I can only imagine how
Those are
that
okay too. But like that first Batman, like there's a Louisville Slugger scene, which is I don't want to spoil anything, but
I'm looking forward to it. I've just even the photos people have posted in versus matches on forums are just a hoot.
like,
Like
the second and third iteration of it, not so good, but that first one is really
the fact that someone thought, what's a crazy idea I can put together and take a beloved movie monster that everyone kind of secretly likes because he's got cool gadgets that he hunts humans with, you know? And how would it be a vigilante who dresses as a gimp, who saves us, who's a millionaire, you know?
yeah, it's really fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean,
Batman getting
I
hunted?
love
That
Predator,
don't make no
but
sense.
like everyone says the Predator has like a code, but he's just a sore loser. He has a code till he doesn't, right?
Yeah, so answer me
It's
this.
like, oh, I won't kill. Like, he doesn't kill the
Riddle me this.
woman in the second one, but then he's about to set off his fucking nuclear device in the middle of L.A.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Did he like scan everyone around, seeing if there was anyone pregnant? No, he's a sore fucking loser.
That's why I hate The Dark Knight Rises so much. I'm like, yeah, no. If terrorists are blowing something up under a pipeline in a Chicago type city, you're gonna kill all those fuckers and then disarm the nuke. I'm sorry.
I love The Dark Knight Rises just because of Tom Hardy's Bane.
Oh God.
Oh God, I love it so much.
Oh yeah, mutated Darth Vader.
It's so good.
So riddle me this: RoboCop kind of gets past the whole morality thing by doing the whole, can't shoot unless you're armed and have a weapon. And I get so annoyed at all the endless Batman arguments. Oh, he doesn't kill, he doesn't kill. And yet these same fuckers have no problem with how many people are killed in a 24 episode or a Lethal Weapon movie. You're like, oh, those guys are cops or
yeah. I mean, it's just I get it. Like,
he's gonna have to kill
Batman
eventually.
doesn't kill things ridiculous, but that is part of his character. I mean, it's part of his character because if he did kill, he'd just kill the Joker and everyone, like, and then he'd have else,
because the Joker's done to death.
So it has to be that, So the Zack Snyder, like, I like Zack Snyder, but that's why his Batman killing is so stupid, because it's like he'll kill a thug for a paycheck, but he won't kill Joker who killed Robin, he won't, like, that doesn't make any sense.
There's a lot of inconsistencies. I kind of blame David S. Goyer, who I do like his work on Terminator Dark Fate. I thought it was perfect how he set up.
It's fascinating because he's written some really good movies and some really fucking terrible ones.
Yeah, Blade 1 and 2, great. Blade Trinity, oof. And then some of his directing standalone movies, not so good. But then, like you say, you love his dialogue and some of his other stuff. He's really an intelligent guy. Who knows
how much is like, just because you're the credited writer on something doesn't mean
that is true too.
20% of what you did is actually on screen.
Most of it seems to be just the dialogue, but they're changing the story so much.
They can change so much stuff. Like, it's hard for me to like really shit on a writer because you just don't know what got changed and that they had no. Because there'll be rewrites and punch ups that those people don't get credited for, and you're still the credited writer, and that script might look completely different than what you wrote.
True. Oh man.
I always just blame studios.
It's easier.
I mean, it's usually the fucking answer.
Yeah. And it's just even funnier how we think it's the answer most of the time, but it's also just like, it makes you realize so many other guys could have said no days ago, but they didn't. And then you're like, so.
I mean, well, shit, like if you're like a struggling writer or something, and they're like, hey, punch up Batman versus Superman. And you write something, they're like, no, we want it to go this direction. That's stupid and dumb. And like, you're like, well, okay, I'll just do that.
I'll see you tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I got to pay rent or I got kids to feed. Like, fuck, it's stupid, but that's what you want and you're going to pay me for it? Okay.
I would rather work on a bad movie that no one thinks is going to be good, and then it ends up being entertaining, like something like a Cocaine Bear type movie, where you're like, sure, why not? What do we have to lose? And then,
I don't worry about anything. Like, I'm a whore. I don't give a shit.
at least you're honest.
Oh,
Most
God,
things-
I don't give a fuck.
but see, David is Goyer.
Twist my shit and put this on my name's on there, and I got paid for it. Fine.
The funny
Fine.
thing about Goyer though is like he's so ego-headed, but he knows it, but he's also won't admit it, and it's just like, sure, it's the best thing. I didn't even write that. I'm like, what? Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, I get being like protective and things like that, but like, and he understands the system. He's playing the game, I think.
I guess
like,
you go from
like,
making.
if I shut the fuck up, I'll get my next paycheck. If I don't say, oh, they ripped my script to shreds by this act, putting this and this and saying like going through and being like, I didn't do this. I didn't do that. Those things you hate, that's not me. He doesn't
go from writing full moon, sci-fi movies to a Van Damme movie.
Respect that. I honestly don't know what I do. I feel like there's a part of me that just doesn't give a fuck that like would like, yeah, my name's on this movie, but I didn't write this. I didn't write this. I
didn't want to write this, but I did.
I didn't do that. This was someone else they brought in. This was someone else they brought. Like, I probably would do that, but I'm not like a successful human being. Like, I don't give a shit about money or anything like that, so I wouldn't really care. But I completely respect anyone who just plays the game. It's like, I got to do what I got to do. Fine.
Go for it, dude. Go for it.
I'm going to get my house in Malibu, feed my family for the next 2 generations. Fine. All right. No, get the bag.
Get it. Oh, man. So I liked just prepping for this in general, just because it's so agreeable. Like, compared to most comic book spinoffs, where, again, like, don't get me wrong, we're going to get into plenty of the other ones, and it's like, they're kind of funny. Like, they're junky fun. But then there's other ones where you're like, that's just, I don't know what that is, but it exists.
That's what I love about comic books is there can be a lot of silly
There's a lot of cocaine.
Well, there can be a lot of silly trash, but then every so often you find something. It's like, this is fucking incredible.
It is almost like the rip-off movies where you're like, hey, they went a step further than the actual movie.
Well, I mean, that's how I feel about the Batman versus Predator. It's like, this didn't need to be good. It's like these crossovers. They're just, I mean, they're a cash grab. Let's be fucking honest. That's all they are.
I wish everyone would just have that as like their marketing. Like, yeah, we're making money.
Take your money, okay? You like this or you like
Shut
this?
up and buy it.
Well, guess what? Now they're together, so give us your money. That's what they're saying. Like, I get that.
They might as well, man. They might as well. And it would just be funny just because you're just like, okay.
Well, that's the thing. That's why I'd be terrible at being an executive, because I'd just be too honest. I'd be like, yeah, we're just trying to take your money. Like, you like finding it. Give us your money.
They say it's your birthday.
Yeah, I wouldn't care. Like, I'd be fired in a second.
Blow your load on this. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, give us your money, nerds. I get it.
Dude, it's so funny just even looking at certain comics that I could read online versus buy on eBay. And so many of them, I was just realizing what a moron I was halfway through. I'm like, I can read this perfectly fine, but I'd rather hold it in my hand. So, boop, delete. I'm going to buy it instead.
There's something about
physical media. And then, and then there's other ones where you're like,
I think comics more are about the only thing I feel that way about. Like, I get all my movies digital. I get DVD digital, everything, but
digital, but even own different copies.
What it is, but just it feels good in your hands.
It really does. You have the extended physical media, and then when you want to put the movie on 24/7, just have the digital copy or DVD ready to go. But then, yes, then it's so funny. I'll happily read a novel online, especially for free, because if I hate the way that it reads, I definitely save myself $7 there. It's like, that's not how this character talks. who hired this writer?
Yeah.
Oh, and it's so funny. I love Kevin J. Anderson. He's made so much stuff that shouldn't work. But then I read some stuff by Max Allan Collins, and I'm like, he's a very nice professional guy, very in love with his own voice. A hot take, but I don't dig the way he writes, but I don't mind reading it because it helps that it's based on a fictional visual medium that we already know. And then there were ones I was reading that were like related to popular movies and shows that strip away all those signature character cameos. It would be a great must read on its own. And
yeah, I mean, you can get bogged down and stuff like that too.
it's a rabbit hole.
Bogged down in continuity and expectations.
And it feels so good because you actually went the extra mile and you're confirming it as opposed to just doing what everyone else is doing, going on Wikipedia saying, hey, I heard they did a crossover. Yes, they did. But did you actually get off your ass and read it? You should. It's hysterical. It's bad or it's trashy fun. You gotta check it out. Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. There's just so much out there, Like, what can we expect it to? You can't consume everything.
You can't. Well, that too. And this is where the comic book and movie buffs drive us fucking crazy because there's just like, hey, you didn't know that? Well, there's only 200 issues. Yeah, no, I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
Anyone who has that type of like gatekeeping is a fucking loser. Like,
They honestly are.
there aren't as many of them as like we think. Like I know a lot of people who are like afraid to go to like that want to get into comics, but they're afraid to go like
They're afraid to ask someone for recommendation.
They think they're gonna get that dickhead that's like, oh, you want the newest Iron Man? Like, fuck you,
dude. I would even get someone.
It's not like that. Those people do exist, but if that person behind the counter does that, fuck them, and they can go kick rocks.
They lose their your business. Yeah,
where someone's gonna be super cool to you and be like, "Yeah, cool, man. Like, I'll tell you what you need to know. I'll point you in the right direction." Like, yeah, there are those losers, but for the most part, but it is. I've noticed it is like a thing that people like are weirdly intimidated by to get into.
They're a variation of the other insecure people. The whole you should get married before you're 30.
Oh, yeah.
You should.
Welcome to everyone I grew up with. I grew up in I'm the only person like from my friend group that's not married with
I grit my teeth every other family member I meet because they're the kind who say you have to have had like an associate's from college to be considered worthy, and it's like fuck you, and
I have 3 degrees and I fucking hate all of them.
Bingo. I have my bachelor's. Where did it get me? Nowhere. So but it's just so funny. I don't want
any of them. They fucking suck and I hate it.
It's like if anything, we would still have our awards and accolades that we have because they didn't do anything for us. They aren't the reason we have our current household or job. But it is funny how, yes, I mean, it does make you wonder if half of these people Robocop would identify as a terrorist or a villain to be, who's probably armed, just
right.
Scan everyone, asshole everyone, nothing to see here. Guys who's got, had too many drinks.
It's interesting to like break down the criteria for like, yeah, like
that was what Kill a Human did.
With it, like what actually qualifies you as like is this just as simple as I pulled a gun, or is there like
most likely to be?
I mean,
violent.
if you're a programmer or a computer, like there's an order of operations. Like you hit this and this. Like I don't know if you've written any type of code or anything. That there's a
I'm incapable of it, but I know what it means.
A lot of if statements going on there to tell you if you can you can do this or not.
It would be a hoot because we'd be like, "Whoa, you can do that."
Yeah, it'd be fascinating to see like RoboCop's source code.
Oh man,
loops or if statements or whatever you got in there.
Man, what's so funny too is, I can't speak today. That was actually the only thing I liked about Kill a Human. Is like it actually did the trouble of just showing him deciphering all the humans, and then it was still stupid. It was cut short because that's the thing. There are moments of brilliance.
That's what I'm saying. They had like they'd be on the cusp of something interesting, and then just
They shit the bed. Yeah.
Yeah, just nothing.
And it was even funnier how the cops instantly trust him at the Cyberdyne explosion. You're like, seriously? They trust him?
Why is he more trustworthy than
Just because he said officer in charge?
regular Terminator? Like,
Yeah.
he's not wearing like a bat. He's still like a metal fucking man. If anything, he's looks scarier than just Arnold.
He looks very scary. He looks like a wrestler who
Like, why would you trust that?
He looks like a circus freak. Yeah. Just I don't know. It's very stupid if we haven't already said.
That story is just like, we needed this to happen, so this happened. Like, the story said this happened.
Eeny, meeny, miny,
so
mo.
we had to get there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's what that book is. It's just, we needed this to happen so this could happen. It doesn't matter why this happened to get there. We just had to get there. So who cares?
Oh man. Craziness in a nutshell. And it just kept going and it kept going and it kept going and it kept going.
Somehow too short and way too long.
For again.
Like it doesn't give you enough detail on the things you want, but it just keeps going and going.
Oh man. And Transformers versus Terminator did it way better because they had so many.
I have not seen
you trust me, you're gonna love it. There's still plot holes that it opens but
Transformers comics are actually really good.
Well, because like they embrace, like they'll have so many. They're kind of Deadpool in a way. They will constantly be making fun of this comic is just here to sell toys. But they'll actually have
to understand like what they are.
I mean, at one point, dude, they at one point are like, "Why does this robot even speak freaking German?" And like, that is perfect. I want that in a comic where it's just making fun of its absurdity.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't work,
it shouldn't exist because Transformers are just marketing ploy of like to give, because Reagan deregulated a bunch of stuff and you could put a cartoon that was just.
Oh wait, there was more. Yeah.
But then they actually made. But that's what I love is that some people got together and were like, you know what, we actually make some cool shit out of this.
Yes.
Yeah, with the Transformers comics.
You'll get rich. We'll get rich. We'll all get rich.
But like, not even like it started off as like just like a gluttonous capitalism bullshit thing, but then creatives saw it and were like, you know what, actually make something pretty cool about this. You know,
you could tell because
that's what I like. That's what I love about it. Actually,
that's actually why it worked the best because like they constantly had some storyboard art in there, and
you had people who like real creatives that were allowed to just like cook and do their fucking cool shit, and
means everything.
I mean, they did.
I mean, because it's already a pain in the ass just to get the, who knows how much it is just to license that, you know, and every copy you got to pay the owner or whatever, you know.
Yeah, I mean, who knows a property like that because it was just started as a moneymaker, so
yeah, and it's
sell toys.
Not to mention,
I bet that's probably why those comics are often so good, because the license probably wasn't very much because it was just seen as an ad for their toys.
I'm actually surprised at how many have to specify like which exact one they're referencing, yet ultimately they're clearly not paying attention, but they're referencing all the other movies, and you're like there's a bunch of T2 ones that also briefly infer T1 and T3, and you're like, so
yeah, like that's so muddled. It's like, what's your continuity?
No one will pay attention.
I'm a person who doesn't really care about continuity. Like, I know a lot of comic book people get like
continuity really only matters.
Give a fuck about continuity.
I mean,
as long as you're telling a good story, I don't give a fuck.
Well, because they get so stuck up on what exact year. I'm like, as long as you are in the overall time frame, it's been 50 years. I wouldn't remember either. So
yeah, I just don't care. Like I love Secret Empire, where Steve Rogers just became evil. It's really fucking stupid.
I'll have to read that.
That happened, but I don't care because it was a really good story and really cool, and a lot of stuff interesting happened. Like I don't give a fuck how we got there. Same with like Superior Spider-Man. Like Doc Ock just like put his brain in Peter Parker's body. Like, okay, that's dumb as fuck, but it was a really cool story. Like, I don't care why, but we got a really
I got my apples and my
out of it,
potatoes. Yeah.
Like, I don't give a fuck about continuity. Give me a good story. I don't give a fuck.
Give me the punchline. The buildup isn't necessary in this case.
Yeah, like that's the thing with so many of the comic book like storylines that I love so much. The reason for
Punisher
it
kills the Marvelverse.
so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Reason, and then they always have to go back to the status quo. So like the very end is usually really fucking stupid, but
It almost
it's
is.
really interesting and cool.
It almost is like a Reagan or Clinton era thing, just the whole war on crime. Oh, you've had too much fun. Now go back to being
Well, I mean,
normal.
that's what like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like Transformers,
Yeah.
Reagan era, like he deregulated the like.
Oh, you did such a good job. Now
Children.
have less.
That's why we don't have Saturday morning cartoons the way we used to, because they were just to sell us toys.
Bingo.
That was it. Because he deregulated shit. Like,
Oh man.
That's fact. Like that just is.
No, it really is. And I hate how people even ask like a source. I'm like, have you not been paying attention the last 20 years? Like these guys get stuck up if you just do anything just different. It almost reminds me of before they had the parental advisory, on the music CDs. It's like, trust me, if you heard it on the radio, you often didn't care what was on the uncut CD. You bought it anyway, but it doesn't matter.
Like that goes back to the whole politicians like getting involved in shit that doesn't actually matter, but grandstanding
It
about.
doesn't matter. Yeah.
Like, oh wow, someone said the F word on a CD. Oh, I'm clutching my pearls. Like, fuck off, shut up. Go fix poverty, you dick.
Yeah. And don't get me started on all these comedians saying, "Oh, I can't exist in this world anymore." Yes, you can.
Oh, anyone who's worried about like cancel culture, any comedian, they're a hack and they're not funny.
Right. And don't get me wrong.
It's not that hard to not be a piece of shit. And,
right. And this is what I hate too.
Plenty of people like that doesn't mean you can't like push boundaries and toe a line. But,
absolutely.
There's a X and Y axis of like funny enough and like what you're saying. Like it might be considered like problematic, but if you're saying, but it's satire or you're making fun of, but you know what I'm saying?
No, I totally know.
I mean, just look at Bill Burr. Like he's a perfect example of that.
Bill Burr is such a bright guy because he doesn't play around. He's just like you. He doesn't suffer fools. But yeah. And he's like me in that he will.
That's why I don't make jokes about certain things because I'm not smart enough to do that. But someone like him, I'm not smart or funny enough to do that. So I stay away from certain topics. He is.
Absolutely.
And those can be judged as controversial or but they're really not. Like he's saying something, like if he says something that we talked about, like a soundbite you get from a stand-up set at the Chuckle Hut wherever, like it could be taken out of context, but like he thought it out and like he's saying something with that, and it's yeah.
No, I totally agree, but I also get annoyed because like I don't think everybody should be canceled, unless you're just like, I don't think it should be your material. I think it should be like, yeah, no, you've been late on set all day and you've been tripping people, and
that's actually interesting, like just being an asshole.
But like an asshole to the point where no one wants to work with you. Like you are belittling them, well,
that's what I say all the time. I'm like you see a lot of people with middling talent that keep getting work. It's because they're not assholes and people want to hang out with them. Like
there's that.
I say that they're not talented, but it's like on a film set, like it's all downtime.
Most of it is downtime.
Insufferable dickhead. People aren't going to work with you on the next project. But if you're fun, if you're nice, if you're just a decent human, maybe you get that call next time.
Oh, and the sad thing is most of our guys who are talented but not personally funny to us, like they often get famous by like the third or fifth stage of their career, basically. Like now I've found my bread and butter. I'll do a voiceover.
Like Andrew Schultz. Like fuck that guy. Fuck him.
Oh,
That dude's such a fucking hack.
yeah, I remember him. Him and there's this other Netflix comedian I won't go into detail on, but it's just like Matt Rife. That's the other one.
I'll say whatever.
But it just got annoying
Those
because
guys.
it used to be
They're not funny. They're not that talented. Like, fuck them.
and everyone's acting like, oh, you don't get it. I get it perfectly. Like, when Will
Yeah, I
Ferrell
get it.
does
It's just not funny.
something,
Like, you're not funny. Like, you think you're edgy and some fucking 12-year-old edgelord. Like, get the fuck out of here.
I mean, and Adult Swim kind of opened up the barrier too when you had people like produced by Will Ferrell or Tim and Eric type stuff, which was like deliberately like anti-comedy. That's where it got into like a gray zone where you're like, even if you don't find that funny, that was kind of random, and I'm kind of guffawing at it now
Yeah, but it's
because
interesting. Like,
yeah,
doing something, you know?
compared to I'm gonna just
Like,
rant.
it may not be your fucking cup of tea, but like they're still doing something. Like they're trying something. They're flexing some sort of creative muscle that maybe it's not for you, but not everything's for everyone. That's fine.
But to your earlier point, it just seems like everyone loves to just instantly go, they're the best, and you can't tell how many of them are legit versus they're bots that are paid to, monetize the celebrity.
Yeah, I mean, nothing gets clicks. Like, you're just saying that was fine doesn't get clicks. So you have to be like, The Last Jedi is the greatest movie since, the original Star Wars, or it's a giant abortion of a debacle. Like, in reality, it's like, yeah, it was fine. I don't know. I didn't love it, but it was fine. Like, that doesn't get you clicks.
I mean, most of our comedians, they weren't funny overnight. And unfortunately, the first thing that aired was their least funny material.
Yeah, I mean, look, like, I don't understand why anyone wants to be a stand-up. That is like the most difficult thing I can comprehend. Like think of being like in a band, like, and you have
We're an American
when you're at a show, they go play the hit, play that. As a stand-up, they're not like do the joke, like,
yeah.
it doesn't work that way. And also, like, any music, or I mean, even in writing, any story you tell, every story has ever been told. It's all been told. You can do variations of it.
The
but
variation is pretty much it.
There's you can't tell a new story. You can't. But with stand-up, you have to. You have to. Or you're gonna be like, you're a joke thief or whatever, whether you are or not. But
yeah,
possible. I don't know why anyone wants to put themselves through that.
I completely agree. Yeah, it's like we're living on a different planet.
Yeah, I feel that way sometimes, but I'm also I've kind of lost my mind.
I think we're all losing our mind because we're finding many people acting irregular, but to the point of where, like, you're not just different, you're just a jerk, and you're not just like original or anything. You're just kind of.
Well, that's a misunderstanding of like again, like Bill Burr, like he'll say something that might be like shocking. I mean that's like Howard Stern. Then
yes,
you get Howard Stern, and then you get a bunch of man cow in the morning because they don't actually understand what he was doing, and they just think I just say something offensive and shocking, and that's
did a perfect tribute.
It's a wild misunderstanding of what made something work or something popular.
Absolutely, dude. Like, even before I put 2 and 2 together, like, somehow I wasn't offended by him versus other people who I was like, man, you demeaned women, or you were asking a racist question.
I'm not offended by anything because that just takes too much effort for me. Like, personally, I'm not offended.
You gotta just like be talking down to me
for me to be offended by anything. I'm just like,
I'm offended by
whatever.
like.
I mean, but there is something to say about like standing up for other people.
It's that, but it's mainly just like talking to me like I'm a 5-year-old is like, I got it the first time. Now what next? Like, don't. Like, Adam McKay is on a great day is excellent. Like, Vice, really hysterical to me.
Adam McKay, he's like the heir apparent to Verhoeven's satire.
In a way, but see, like, then I saw
the closest person that I've seen yet to get.
I mean,
he was a big part of Secession. We just talked
Secession,
about.
Yeah, perfect. So like, but then I see Don't Look Up. I'm like, that was a miss. There's a reason that went straight to.
Yeah, I really like that.
didn't like it at
Like
all.
I liked it. I mean, I hated it because it was a little too real.
I just thought,
like I felt like this could actually fucking happen, which was really sad and depressing.
I guess I just thought the Big Short was probably the better of all his
I'm pretty sure it's amazing.
trilogy, because like he took a great book, pretty hard to goof that book up, and then
Michael is an incredible writer. I mean,
yeah, and
Blindside, Moneyball, like
there you go. And I mean, we might have lost most of the audience here, but what we're getting at is just like
do we ever care? Like when we talk,
we often really don't
talk about nothing.
I mean, it's something in everything.
You have me on to boost your audience. That is a big miss on your part.
What is an audience?
Fuck it. Who cares?
What's an audience?
They're in.
So I'm to the point where like I only get annoyed if you are talking down to me, like I'm not listening, and I'm like I heard fair. You. I heard you loud and clear.
More heavy-handed and I get that. I see where you're coming from. I didn't feel that, but I can understand it.
It's kind of like I was comforting someone the other day, and they pushed me away, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll let you have it, because I didn't need you to just cry on my chest and everything. I needed to I'm just letting you know I'm thinking of you, and you're still in a.
Yeah, like I'm here for you. If I can't provide what you need, that's fine. But
then what's so funny is one of them
I'm here.
That family member left an egg salad sandwich in the fridge the next day, and I didn't know if that was their way of saying I'm sorry or what. People talking cryptic ways.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing. Everyone's fucking. Well, we're all the star of our own movie, right? Like, I mean, we want to like help other people and be there for the people we care about and this and that, but we don't always know what they need.
Yeah, like, and they can't tell us either.
Like I'm the fucking worst at that because I don't feel. I don't have emotions the same way that like regular people do, and I know that. Like I had a friend who like had like a miscarriage, and like I didn't know how to respond to that, so I sent him a picture of my balls because I thought it was funny. And he's just like, I know what you're trying to do. Please don't do that. But I appreciate the effort, but please just that's not it. I don't know how to deal with that. I don't know fucking how to deal with that.
How do we accept?
And like that's what I would want, but I'm a fucking mutant. Like I don't know. I'm just like it's just like throwing rocks in the air, you know. I don't fucking know what people need.
Shooting a gun off, hoping like, no.
I mean, that's my way of telling him I'm here for you. I don't know what the fuck to do.
I'll be there for you.
We're good friends, so he was like, well, "Don't do that," but I appreciate, you know, where your head's at.
Where's your head at? And that's the thing. We don't know where.
How can you know?
We don't even know where Robocop's head's at. I mean,
well, Robocop's head is in his fucking directives, man.
That is actually a fun miniseries, and it shouldn't work at all, considering that, again, like you're talking about a cheap Canadian show.
You know, it's Canadian, wasn't it? The only time I ever saw an episode of that series was in like a hotel, and now that I think about it, I think it was a hotel in Quebec.
What were you doing in Quebec?
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
I was like a little kid on vacation or something.
It's so funny though. Like they couldn't afford the rights.
Like what the fuck's going on?
Well, what's funny is they had a rough time, like just getting it to all happen. Like they didn't have the rights to show any archive footage from the movie, so they used the 90s TV show, which was they had rights to, which had archive footage of the movies. That's brilliant.
That's interesting.
And I think
honestly, a show like that, it like does it a disservice to show archive footage from the movies because the production value is so...
You can so tell, but
it's like if you've seen the second Starship Troopers, they started off with
stock footage of the first one.
From the first movie, I was like, oh shit, like, oh, this looks good. And then it starts with their movie and it's
yeah,
just shining a light on how shit your thing is in comparison. I think it's a bad idea.
Stock footage is
Weird
just
way.
never helpful. Yeah, it's just don't
It's a
do
bad
it.
idea. It just shows how the big gap you have.
It's a long way to go now. You made more work for yourself now. And honestly, though, it is a decent miniseries. It just took a crappy '90s TV show to get better. Honestly,
I mean, there's something there for a series. I don't think they'll ever get it right or do it, but I think there is something there.
It doesn't help that everyone reads into it differently. Some people are taking it so serious, like I cried at it. I'm like,
well, yeah, because they've taken their audience and spread it out so much. Because at first it was a hard R, the first two movies, and then it's
yes,
and now we're selling toys for.
They took all the kids to it.
So who are we? Who's watching this, and like who are we catering towards, or who are we directing this towards? You're all over the like the first
all over the place.
Very clear who it was directed towards. It was adults.
Right? Oh, craziness.
I mean, you'd have to have like weirdly like the Starship Troopers animated like show for kids.
Right. Who would have thought that would work for an R-rated franchise?
Really good, and you know what? Verhoeven was like an executive producer on a lot of those episodes.
Yeah.
Not all of them, though. Like a lot of times you see an EP, it's like they didn't do anything. It's just collecting a check. But he wasn't on every episode, which makes me think he actually did have involvement in the ones
he got a phone call at least and gave him an idea.
Yeah, and also the animation is like early like 3D animation,
and without it, Hulu,
it's like
Halo doesn't exist.
Not good. But it's a solid series.
Yeah, look at Babylon 5, dude. It's a discount Star Wars Star Trek show.
I never saw Babylon 5.
It's epic, but the problem is it's impossible to introduce for today's world because the effects are garbage, and some of the guest actors are very hammy. So you feel like you're watching a bad
Battlestar fucking got it. Like the remake was a really great idea, well acted, well done. But the effects were still pretty fucking solid for TV. They were actually great for TV at the time.
Absolutely. It's weird because we're all sticklers on this. It has effects that normally I would be like, they didn't even fucking try. That's Sci-Fi Channel. But
at that time, Sci-Fi was,
it serves the plot.
Like Crocodile versus Mastodon, like it was nothing. Like it was a joke.
I think it helps that. Well, and it also helps that they got good Foley and editors, so you actually music helps.
Star Wars, like one of the reasons Star Wars works is the fucking sound.
The sound, yeah.
And
even those cheesy comic book type transition effects where it just slides across the screen, that can only work in Star Wars. It doesn't work anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean that's like some iMovie like shit.
Yeah, that's a Windows Movie Maker. Yeah.
But yeah, like Battlestar, just like the silence and just like the like of the raptor, like in the understated sound of the machine guns firing again, which also doesn't really make sense because there'd be no sound in space, but there'd be no other sound other than that. Like it's a really great choice.
Absolutely.
And as we've talked about, Space Above and Beyond, unbelievable effects for.
It's only been our most just delightful time just talking about.
I mean, but still, like that, those effects still aren't that bad now.
Not at all.
And then those were fucking movie quality effects.
I mean, how else could they have done it back then? Yeah, it's just. And I love how we're all regurgitating and figuring out why we even like certain things back in the day, because we were idiots back then. We didn't know why something was good. We just would come to school and say, "You like that? I
like that because the cool space battles, like that was.
I know. It's just so funny. But it's just so funny how we didn't know how to explain it back then. We'd just be like, that movie was great. Oh, that movie sucked.
You're just dumb as a kid. You don't fucking know. Like, there's no way you could.
I kind of broke out of it by the time I was 14, realizing I'm being an unintentional troll, and I just shut up. Just say what you want to say, but don't be. I mean, and it is amazing. There are so many who will just unleash what they're thinking. Like, I hate certain theaters that I go to that I avoid altogether now. Like, I go to only particular ones that aren't as crowded because there's always going to be an asshole who's texting or got a loud baby, and it's like, don't ruin people's enjoyment.
Oh, I'll yell at people if they have their phones on.
Turn your fucking phone off.
I'll yell at people. Like a baby, like, yeah, I'm annoyed. Like, you shouldn't have done that, but there's nothing I can do. But if you got your phone out, I'll fucking tell you to stop it.
Yeah, take your fucking phone off. Oh, man. And so, long story short, if you're unsure if you want to collect the classic Robocop versus Terminator game, you can hunt the internet. And if not, well, you can watch amazing.
The new Robocop games, Delta City or whatever, it's supposed to be pretty good. I don't have a PS5, so I can't.
I mean, it's a direct sequel. It's got to be good, and
it looks pretty cool.
And the comic, like we've said before, by any edition of the original '90s comic, the artwork still holds up. The plot gets it done in a 4-point issue, and avoid the first human, but still find a way to kind of see it.
Yeah, don't pay for it, but you did consume it.
Kind of like when you watch a bad movie on TV, make sure.
There's actually a really good YouTube channel called Mr. Sunday Movies that does
Mr. Sunday Movies.
Does one on Kill Human. It's fucking fantastic. Just do that.
Man.
You don't buy it. Just find that.
Watch your favorite comic book reviewer review it. Perfect. And this is always a delight, my dude. It's just amazing how we'll find something that just kind of just makes us come out of our shell.
Yeah, I mean, I love coming on with you. You're great, and I mean, I'll talk forever about nothing.
And I look forward to your next movie review. And I never know what you're going to take on, and it's always you've gotten creative where you just will even have some other audio clips of you reacting.
I appreciate that, man. You're the best.
I mean, dude, life is short. I'm finding that most people, you can tell, they'll say, "Oh, you're the best," but then you ask them a few loaded questions. What was your favorite episode? And then you can tell, "Oh, you didn't actually listen to that."
Yeah, most people are full of shit and suck. So,
oh man, so you've done your share of Verhoeven. I have no idea what comic book movie you're gonna do next, but it'll be fun.
Always. Thanks, man.
Right. And with ado, don't do drugs, don't do crime, and don't shoot at the robot cop.
No, do drugs.
But do drugs.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up